Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome to the weekly Q&A. As always, I'll be answering questions from the community and we will dive right in. So the first one is around sort of the offer. And so this is, unfortunately, somebody said, I lost my job. So the question is, when do I update LinkedIn to reflect it? And this obviously, there's no magic answer here. You kind of do whatever you feel comfortable with. But I will tell you that most people kind of have it's kind of a break it into three tranches, right? So 0 to 3 months, most people just leave it, right? It's a very common practice that, if you lost your job, you don't go into LinkedIn immediately and do it. You kind of leave it there and just don't update it, right? Which is totally fine. It's very normal practice. Nobody would be surprised. It does, unfortunately, make it easier to find a job if you're not looking for a job, right? I mean, it shouldn't have an impact, but it does. So having it there is fine for the first 3 months. 3 to 6 months is when most people kind of want to transition, right? So somewhere in that period is where people would normally sort of update it, and probably like, 4 months, definitely by 6 months, you would want to update it and do that. And then obviously 6 months, you now have a gap. And the main thing is to kind of own it, right? And so you want to create this idea, particularly for people like in our community where it's, sort of managers, senior managers, directors, VPs, you can start to add like sabbatical, right? Like, yeah, well, I had a great first career. This happened, we had a contraction in the business, and I decided to take 6 months off. That is actually an excellent answer because it does a couple of things. It sort of implies that you've been successful because you could take 6 months off. You have the financial resources, you're comfortable doing that. Took 6 months off, and now I'm looking, right? So that's one way to do it, is just to declare kind of sabbatical. It just took some time off. I had this unique opportunity, and that's what I did. I took 6 months off, and now I'm back ready to go again. Most people will be jealous that you're able to take 6 months off. So that is a classic one that I would suggest. Or you want to start to think about what your projects, consulting, figure out how to do something, not just I've been looking for work for 6 months. So that's the one you don't want to be, is yeah, I don't know, I've been just looking for work for the last year, right? That's not where you want to be. You want to have consciously decided on what you're doing. Sabbatical is a nice, easy way to do it. Or if you can, have consulting work or projects or working with a startup or something like that, that can help as well. But again, in general, you do have a few months leeway. As you start to get that 4 to 6 months, that's probably when you should think about transitioning it. Okay, next question is, what is the difference between a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor? And, great question. And again, there's no actual definition of this. Everybody makes up whatever they want in terms of how they think about these things, but I'll give you my perspective on it. So coach is somebody like me who is very specifically engaged to help you do something different, right? There's much more accountability. There's a bit of a contract, either implied or explicit, right? It is something where somebody is providing service to you as a coach. I need help to do this. I have a coach who is there to give me these skills and make sure I do that. That's a very formal thing. So most people do not have informal coaches. Again, in my world, right? Coaches is something where you effectively contracted with somebody to help you achieve a specific outcome. That's a coach. A mentor and a sponsor is probably what you have many more of. And the subtle difference there is a mentor is basically anybody who will give you advice, right? Anybody who gives you advice, I would put in the mentor category. A sponsor is somebody who goes out of their ways to not only give you advice, but to take steps to help you, right? So if anybody says, oh, hey, Drew, come with me. I want you to present at this forum. I want you to meet somebody. I want you to do this. I'm going to arrange it. That is a sponsor, right? That is somebody who is actively sponsoring your career by helping you do stuff. Your boss can and honestly should act as a sponsor in general, but that's the general category you want to think about. As mentor is kind of advice only. Sponsor is somebody who is actually taking time and energy out of their day to move you forward. The other thing I would say, just with this question, because I talked to a number of people who are like, oh, should I ask this person to be my mentor? Don't get caught up in the titles. Am I your mentor? Don't worry about it. It doesn't even actually matter whether I think of myself as your mentor. And honestly, that can be a negative because a mentor sounds like a long-term relationship and you're expecting a lot from me. And I don't know if I have time for that. If they give you advice, they are a mentor, formal or informal. If they're helping you move forward, they are a sponsor. And it is much easier to say to somebody in the organization, let's say it's a CFO, right? And you're trying to learn more about finance. And you say, hi, I was wondering if you had 15 minutes. I had a few questions on our roadmap or the call, the earnings call you did. I would love to just ask you a few questions. Sure. let's get 15 minutes. I'm happy to do it. Ask a few questions. You finish up the questions. You say, this was so helpful. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to build up my financial knowledge. I think it'll help me be better in the product space, whatever. Would you mind if in a few months I had a few more questions if I reach out again? Oh, yeah, if you have a few more questions, no problem. That person is now a mentor versus, hey, CFO, would you be willing to be a mentor for me? Now, again, there's just all this other, well, I don't know. Do I have mentors? Why would I pick you and not somebody else? There's just all these other factors that happen when you ask that question. And so understand the difference in terms of what they're actually giving you and what your arrangement is. But my advice in this situation is actually don't go for formal mentors or formal sponsors. Just go for advice or go for action. Hey, I'm trying to get more visibility. Like, how can I get in front of this executive group? Is there any way you could help? If that person helps, they are a sponsor. But again, there's this intimidation and sort of commitment fear, not fear, but there's so many other priorities that you're basically begging well, I'm not ready. I can't really take on a new mentor or mentee right now. So my advice, just ask for advice or ask for support. And in your mind, you want to think of them as, oh, so that person's been a good mentor, this person's been a good sponsor. But I would sort of back off the titles because it doesn't add a lot other than you're like, oh, I have four mentors. But it doesn't add anything in terms of content. Right. So my advice is don't think as much about formally asking them, just ask for advice. And chances are you can do that, and then you can actually have a lot more mentors, and you'll just get a lot more there. So that's what I would say the difference is. But again, don't over index on the titles and don't necessarily try to form quote unquote mentor relationships. Just have people that give you advice. And it's much easier, much simpler, and you'll have a lot more of them if you approach it that way. Okay, interview question. How do I answer the why are you leaving question when the reason is I don't like my current company, which I know I'm not supposed to say, right? So, okay, good. Don't say anything negative about your current company, even if that is the reason you're leaving. Basically, you need to come up with a reason to move towards this new job, not away from your existing job. So, away is, oh, my boss, the business is failing, like I don't like it there anymore, the culture sucks. Don't say any of that because it puts me in the frame as the hiring manager or interviewer as, okay, if you say that about your company, what are you going to say that about our company? Right? Because every company is not perfect, right? So that it immediately puts me in a kind of defensive mode and very questioning. So you want to always answer the question of, I want this. I want to go towards this, which could be, I've always admired your company. It's been my dream to work here because you guys do X, Y, and Z. Finally have the chance. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking for a new challenge. And oftentimes the easiest way to say that is in my old role, we were doing this and now we're basically done. We were upgrading a major system, we were building out a new function, we were moving into a new market, and we did it. And it was great and a lot of fun. But we're kind of done. We're moving into more operational mode. So we're kind of plateauing and I'm looking for my next challenge. Right. So that's a good way to kind of transition. But the idea being nothing negative about your existing company, new challenge, new opportunity, new industry, something different. That's why you want to do it. So always answer towards the thing you want in relation to the company that you're interviewing with. Always avoid anything that's negative about your existing company. Right. So always a positive answer as to why you want to move or why do you want to leave. And ideally, you don't want to leave. You just have something better that you can't say no to. Right. So again, it's just the vibe. Like you're just trying to create this image of you moving forward, moving up, bigger and better challenges. I want you on my team. That's effectively what you're trying to do. Okay, another interview question. Any tips on how to differentiate yourself in interviews? Again, broad one. Just if you want the macro, go to community. There's the sales course that has all the interview stuff. Check that out. That has all the ideas there. But ultimately, the simple answer here is there are a lot of people that look just like you, right? In terms of background skills, capabilities, et cetera. So I'm hiring a whatever director of engineering, VP of engineering. I'm going to talk to 20 people, and they all have very similar backgrounds about, I've run this size engineering department, I've done this, I've done this, I've added this value, and they tend to be very, very similar. And obviously, we talk about this all the time with this unique value proposition is why are you different than the other 10 people that I've talked to? So yes, you need to be able to do the job. But that's table stakes. We're not even talking if I don't think you can do the job. I have 10 people that can do the job. Why you? Right? And so that is really the thing that you need to dive into is what makes me unique? What am I bringing that the other 9 people are not? So this is great. Yeah, but 8 other people have that. That's not unique, right? You need to think about what is your combination of skills, experience, knowledge, whatever it is that is going to add value to this job that, again, ideally none of the other 9 people have, as much as you can. So that's really the, some approach, some perspective, some idea that you have that's different is always what you're fishing for, right? You do need to establish the basics. Yes, I can do this job, but then the thing that will get you the job is the thing that you do differently than everything else. So if you're thinking about this, that's really where I'd spend the time because that's the most important thing. Assuming you've done your homework and you're clearly qualified for the job. If there are gaps, you need to close that stuff first. But I'm assuming you're there. If you're there, then it really is why you. Like that's ultimately the question that the interviewer is trying to figure out. So you should spend a lot of time there as well. All right, and the last one is in the results category. We might be acquiring another company. Any suggestions on how to get more involved? And in this case, the best idea is to help get involved in a conversation of how can you create more value in this potential acquisition with a new idea, a new role, or something else. So it is back to, again, tying it back to all the concepts we do in the community. This is a perfect example of that, moving from that service provider. What do you need, boss? Okay, let me do it. What's my priority? Okay, I'm going to go do it. That is a service provider relationship because you say, hey, boss, what should I do? And the boss says, do this. And you go, got it. And then you execute the heck out of it, right? To that peer relationship where you go in with, hey, boss, this is what I think we should do. Your boss goes, great idea. Let's debate a little bit. And then we agree and then you move forward. So if there is a potential acquisition, this is where you want to create ideas. You want to create things that you think will accelerate the acquisition, make it more efficient, bring the teams together. Like there are a lot of questions. It's a perfect time because there are a lot of questions anytime you acquire another company as to what do you do? Do you kind of leave them alone? Do you merge functions? Which functions? All functions? Some functions? What about technology? Do you keep two platforms? Like there are a million questions that leadership is going to have to deal with. So the question is, can you take some of them off their plate? Can you be like, okay, I have lots of ideas in this space, the architecture, the technology integration. How do you bring those ideas and say, I think I can add value in this way? Should I work up some proposals? Should I work up some ideas? And you want to move to this peer relationship. So it's a perfect excuse to just brainstorm, come up with ideas, and then try to sell those ideas. So that's really what I would suggest you do is, again, leadership is overwhelmed. Just by definition, there are too many options, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to whittle down, where do we start? What do we do? We're going to get the most leverage. If they can outsource some of that to you because you can contribute at that level, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be very, very happy that you're doing that, and you have a great opportunity to take a bigger bite of whatever pie you're trying to get to by taking on some aspect of that they will no longer have to think about, so they can think about the bigger ticket problems because you took over this chunk. Right, so be proactive, come up with ideas, have those conversations, and figure out where you can get in there and help make some of these decisions. All right, so I hope that helps. That is the question list for this week. As always, just DM me any questions in the community or let me know in a post and I will answer them next week. So everybody has a great week and we'll see you in the community. Take care.